Hi everybody, on behalf of the crew I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, for most of you, because I know that a lot of people watch the show, really consistently. We've done the show for 10 years, 11 years now. This is, I guess the 185th show. And show in and show out, year in and year out, the intention basically stays the same. The intention is dedicated to the oneness. The intention is, I would say, the joyous recognition of who we really are, of how we come to this experience as human beings, and what is the real root of this experience as human beings, and how we can come together as brothers and sisters on this planet, as caretakers of this glorious planet, as brothers and sisters of the dolphins and whales, and just be in this Garden of Eden. Because obviously there's so much beauty here. There's so much beauty here. Each of us has so much beauty within us, somewhere. Sometimes it's more buried than others. But we know, somewhere in our hearts, each of us, every one of us knows that we can know something about that love, something about that truth, something about that oneness. And when we know that, our lives will be different. Our lives are different. And throughout history, that's been the call, the clarion call of all the teachers, the masters, the mistresses, the people who had that experience, the people who knew love, who knew truth, who knew oneness. They said, you can have the experience I have. Let that love shine. Be here now. Be in that experience of love. And as people who've watched the show before know, we have people coming in from all over the world, one after the other, whose dedication, whose passion, whose recognition in one form or another just echoes and just resounds that love, that truth. And again, we have somebody whose gifts are just enormous. Vivianne Nantel, she's an artist, she's a poet, she's a writer, she's a humanitarian, she's an environmental activist, she's an animal activist. This is one busy woman letting that love shine, standing up for those animals, those individuals, those trees, those plants, those waters, that in a way, the way it's disharmonized on this earth, they can't stand up for themselves. And her art is just an amazing manifestation, an amazing outgrowth, just a cry from the heart. And we've talked a little bit before, we really haven't gotten into it much. We started this incredible international Bridging Heaven and Earth art project, and we contacted artists from all over the world. And Vivianne, when we contacted her, just said, count me in. This is something I want to do, to enliven that vibration of love, to collaborate with all these other artists all over the world, to create a new original piece based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth. And the pieces are starting to come in, and they're just unbelievable, just unbelievable expressions of love in so many different ways that we can express that love. And later on in the show, when Vivianne comes on, you'll see her painting, the Bridging Heaven and Earth Blossom. It's just unbelievable. So this is a true Renaissance woman who flew in just to do this show tonight. Her paintings are exhibited all over the world, and it's an honor to be able to sit with her and talk about passion and love and creativity. And honestly, if you sit for this next hour or so, you too will be honored to be part of that. And then we have two incredible videos. This wonderful woman put this together, Mary Robinson Reynolds, this You Are the Light video. And then we have a video from the people of the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, about vegetarianism and different things like that. And it's a show that can really open the heart. It's a show that can let us into that oneness. So as we normally do, please join me in a meditation to get us settled in, and then we'll have the video, and then we'll have Vivi with us on the set, and it's really an opportunity to just go deeper into that experience. So please join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight's show with a video. It's You Are the Light. It's an amazing internet story. I was, we get internet messages from all over the world about people doing incredible things, and in one weekend I must have gotten 25 messages on the internet saying there's this wonderful video that's circulating on the internet. It's called You Are the Light. It was created by Mary Robinson Reynolds. It was produced by her husband Craig Reynolds. The creator of the Moments of Peace music on it is Charles Sininga. And everyone said, you got to see this video. So when I saw it, I said, let me call Mary and Craig and see if we can get a copy. And they were just so gracious. They sent it to us. And here it is, You Are the Light. So enjoy. Hi, everybody. Well, we're back with Vivi, so welcome. It's great to have you.
Namaste. It's my honor to be here today.
It's beautiful.
Very happy.
And the painting you're seeing is the Bridging Heaven and Earth Blossom. I told you a little about the Bridging Heaven and Earth art project. This is one of the first paintings that came in, so you can imagine how pleased we are. So why don't you talk about like creativity and art and love and passion, and if there's a bigger topic, let me see if I could find one.
Wow, creativity. I don't know. I think we all are very creative. We all are talented, Alan. Is that we don't know it because we're divine and we forget that we are, spiritual being, having a human experience. But I think for me, creating is I just sit down and go within my ancient cave and I just let this energy, this love coming through me, and I just become, I would say, a vehicle, but we are divine, so in a way we're not a vehicle. We are, it's just a manifestation of the divine that comes through us, and I think when we make that space to allow this beautiful energy to come to us, we could tap in the cosmic, and it's amazing what we can do. It's just that we need to make this quiet time. And I think for me, it's when I sit down in meditation and every breath becomes a prayer and every moment is an eternity. And I see images and it just comes to me. And it's interesting because sometimes I'm in front of a canvas and I see images. And I would say when I'm in my studio, it has become a spiritual practice for me. It's a ritual. It's actually, I would say, it's a devotion. It's a path of love and devotion. I bring the Bhakti yoga aspect into my work because I really do it out of love and offering to the divine. And so the ego is gone when I work. Whatever that comes, I express that in that manifestation on the canvas.
But you started having those experiences young, right? You were a little girl when you started having these experiences of like that creativity and wanting to manifest.
Yeah, well, I was quite a philosopher when I was a little girl, and it frightened my parents because I was so unusual. I would sit down and I don't know, I don't think all children do that, but I would sit down and ask those big questions, very early on, not even 7 years old, maybe even 5 years old. I would wonder, I would start with myself. Why am I here? What am I doing here? And what is this? Who am I? And it would expand to trying to understand the whole cosmic universe and trying to understand in my little mind, what is it behind the walls of the sky in my child's mind? And then I would try to figure this out, and then I would go back within myself. And so that's basically it. And then I started drawing. I would immerse myself into drawing. And I think most people don't realize art, any kind of form of art, when it is offered to the divine, it really becomes a meditation because you lose yourself in it. You become one with it. I would say in my studio, sometime I go in total ecstasy and blissful. I cry. If anyone would see me outdoor, like how do you call those photographer, looking paparazzi, thank you. And they would take pictures. They would think I'm totally crazy because I go with my hands up and I cry and I go in blissful state. I roll over on the floor. I play with our doggies and sometimes I just close my eyes and I feel presence with me as I work. And I feel like my work has intense Shakti, a lot of energy in it. And people have noticed it. I've seen people crying, seeing my artwork, and also I have seen people hearing saying that it has a healing effect on them. It touches on a very deep core within their soul. Because I think what's happening, Alan, with this kind of work that comes through me, it touches not only a deep core of the soul, but it brings back this. It awakens a little bit.
The recognition.
Yeah, that's right. The recognition, first of all, because we forget that how separated we are from the divine. We come into this physical realm and we experience Maya, the illusion of this reality. And we forget truly who we are, and that's what we are. We're truly divine being, that we have lost this connection. We have been annihilated, and we get so caught up into the small mind, the ego, and this all illusion of this life.
All the separation, the seeming separation.
Yeah, exactly. And in reality, the true reality, we don't see it with our true eyes, you know, those physical eyes. I believe, again, this is my personal experience, but I'm sure a lot of people will understand and would agree with that. The soul would recognize something that is divine, because it speaks on a very, very profound level. It's a language that we cannot put into words. The truth, when the soul experiences the truth, and when it touches it, we're speechless, and it touches our emotion, and emotions are the most powerful forces of the universe, and one of them is love. And going back to what I was saying, people have said to me, your work has touched me very deeply, and they become conscious, and there's something that has been triggered within themselves, and what it is it rekindles that connection with the divine that has been lost, finding, like, making that quiet time.
Coming home.
Yes,
Feeling
thank
like
you.
coming home.
Yes, coming back home, even if it's only for a second, and
It feels so good.
it's so beautiful, and that's why for me, creating is so blissful, because I lose myself in my work when I'm there. It's like I become one with the work.
But you also write poems, and you
Yes.
write articles. Actually, you wrote a poem about this that
Yes.
we'll have on the website and all that.
Yes.
So you want to read that?
Yeah, I would
do it.
love to.
Right.
And actually, I would say for my writing and my poetry is the same too.
Right.
I lose myself in it, and except for the English part, sometimes it's a little difficult.
Everyone else loses you there.
Everybody loses me. My editor loses me too, very much so.
No, I'm sure
because
this will be
I'm still
great.
working on that language. I tell you, it's like.
You sound so good.
No, I'm
You
still
do.
learning, and it's an internal learning process here on this earth. But I will read it to you.
Okay, thank you.
It's a very short. It's entitled, of course, "Bridging Heaven and Earth Blossom." I crawl within my ancient cave, surrendering to the longing of your multiple faces. My worn-out heart is letting go of the last tear. Where are you, Divine One? Soul, why are you crying, drowning in the sea of earthly misery? Wake up! You are the sun, you are the moon, the virgin flower with wings breathing light, blossoming in the night. Sacred heaven of my arts feeds you as one. Oh, my beloved sunflower.
Oh, it's beautiful. So did you did that after you did the painting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
After you had it done and finished.
Yeah. And I have to say that I don't work when Spirit doesn't want to work. I let Spirit guide me, whatever is Spirit, I don't know. Who am I to say what it is? I don't know, but this wonderful energy that comes through me, it just comes naturally, and I feel a pull to go into my studio to create, and that's when I express. The same thing for poetry, the same thing with writing. I think it takes something to grab my soul, and because I am so open, my heart is open. Actually, going back to a heart opening, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I've been told by people. It could open the heart chakra. Of course, not everyone would use the word chakra, but it opened up that beautiful heart that we have, that we tend to keep closed, shut down because of the world we live in. We're so afraid to be hurt and be vulnerable, and so that's the way I create. I just let the divine inspire me.
But as time goes on, you're more in tune with that. So, I mean, in other words, you would say that, as you surrender more to that, you're more in line with that. And the paintings are almost a pure manifestation of that, because you're less there.
Absolutely. Oh, you said exactly what I was about to say. It's a total surrendering. Thank you. It's a total surrendering.
No problem.
Yeah, it's a total surrendering, because it's the only way you could create powerful work, or a work any kind of art that touches the soul. If we start going into theory thinking,
it
and
starts to be flat and dull.
and especially in the art world, everything is about a theory and be classified in a category of for art history. And I try, to me, it's like I actually sometimes prefer not to be put into a category, because I feel like at the moment we do that, with anything we do in life, especially when it comes to art, is that we are putting ourselves in a cage. And
we're limiting ourselves.
Yeah, we're limiting ourselves.
And we're bigger than that. Anything we could define.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I let the divine inspire me, and the manifestation come to me, and now you should see my new work. This is going to be interesting. It's evolving, it's changing, and I let it express and manifest. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like so often when we talk about doing the show, I mean, it has like a mind of its own.
Yeah.
It's the guests who are supposed to come on, and those who aren't, even if we think they should, don't. It doesn't work that way, and it just, is an expression that way.
I was going to share a little story with you, because I think it would be interesting for people to hear, and the viewer, because when I graduated, when I studied art, my work was very different, and I had an incredible metamorphosis and a spiritual awakening, so to speak. And it was in January of 2001, and it was related with the plane crash, Alaska Airlines, Flight 261. And my husband and I, we were traveling, we went to Puerto Vallarta, and we were booked on Flight 259. And Michael had a premonition about, not a premonition, excuse me, he wanted to change the flight. I had the premonition because I had the feeling we were going to the airport, and we changed the flight. There were a difference of 1 hour in the flight, and I felt the energy coming through me. So when we got into the plane, I sat down and started meditating and praying and visioning a light around the plane. And this is a long story, but I'll make it very short. When we arrived at San Francisco airport and landed, we were told that the plane was lost, and we didn't understand right away what it meant. But when we went through the costume and found out, the plane had crashed and everyone had perished and died.
The plane you were supposed to be on.
Yes, exactly. Both of us, we were booked on that. And I had felt the energy, and I realized what I was feeling was actually the energy of those souls that passed away, and it was very, very powerful experience. And when I came back, I had an incredible spiritual awakening, and my work totally changed. It was all this coming out, and I was so surprised. It was amazing.
So it surprised you that all of a sudden what was you were painting before was completely different than what you were painting now after that experience.
Yeah, because I felt like my heart, my soul had sunk into the bottom of the ocean with the soul, those people who have died, even though we all move on. And it was interesting how it impacted me, and now I realize how ephemeral is this world that we live in, and it made me truly in contact with my true essence, with the source, with our creator, and this is where I had an incredible, powerful spiritual awakening. I went through, of course, I pray and mourn for months. It was interesting, it was amazing the experience I had to see. I was actually for almost a month and a half without working, and when I went back in my studio, this is the kind of work started coming up in my
And nothing
studio.
like this, you had done anything
No,
like this before?
nothing.
Wow.
If you would have seen, and what's interesting is like if you look, take the time to look at the body of my work, it's very philosophical, and there's a lot of depth in it. I mean, especially my earliest work on the Veda, on the Upanishad, the Vedantas. I did not know anything about the ancient tradition of yoga, which is a beautiful, rich tradition, and it was all coming up in my work.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was quite a surprise, but I did not resist it. I pulled my mind and my ego, and I just was in the moment. And that's when I started having some very powerful spiritual experiences as I was working.
Wow. So and you described it, that when you're painting and that surrender happens, I mean, there's an experience of being in the moment, being in oneness, being in an infinite quality. And in a human body, it really feels like love and bliss, right?
Oh, bliss is love, and oneness is love. And we need to all reconnect to that source.
And then there's no separation. And then everyone's our brother and sister. I mean, we talk about that. On the show, I said at the opening, dedicated to the oneness, that kind of, experience. And
we all are interconnected. And when we talk further about animal cruelty and all that, you'll see in the environment how we are all interconnected and the oneness. Because there's no difference between you and I and the world and everybody. We all are so interconnected. And when we hurt someone, an animal or anything, so we are really hurting ourselves. And when we let someone go, let down, we really are letting ours down. And love, there's nothing else that's more powerful than anything else is love. Love is the most powerful emotion, and we could change the world with love. But only if we go back and reconnect and let go of that separation and that alienation from home and come back home. We don't have to wait until we pass away. It could be done right in now. Yeah. And I think it comes from the longing of the divine, loving and that longing of the divine is so very beautiful because. And that's another thing that happened to me also, I would say. I met my spiritual teacher. They say when the student is ready, the master comes, and this was so unexpected, and it came so beautiful. And I don't know, maybe you heard of him, His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar from the Art of Living Foundation. Right. By the way, next year, this next year, I believe, it's our 25th anniversary with the Art of Living. But I was going to say about the beautiful teaching that I see, which is universal, is that Sri Sri talks a lot about the longing of the divine. And what I see in humanity, in the world, with all the wars and all the animal cruelty and the discord and the hatred and the violence, there's so much violence in the world. What's lacking is that people need to start looking within and letting that longing come through. That's what's left. Because when we start having that longing for the divine, you start opening up your heart and letting that love come through.
Yeah, the need opens you.
Yeah, because most people, their heart is closed. But we live in this world on earth because there's so much violence, there's duality. The duality is so strong, and we get caught up in it so easily, and we are forgetting that we need to refocus and center ourselves and let go of the ego, let go of the small mind, and start searching for the divine. That's the first thing. And I think a wonderful practice, if for anyone who would like to, who is not yet in touch with their soul, it's very easy. Just close the eyes, put your hands on your heart. That's the best way to start to grow spiritual. We all are spiritual beings. It's not that we're not. I would say to evolve and to start to go on a spiritual path. If we have lost that connection, put the hands on the heart and start breathing deeply. And it's very simple. Close the eyes and focus on the heart. And that's it. Just quietly, peacefully, and start feeling. It's a very simple practice, and it's a wonderful way to start. And there's a lot of different way, of course, but I'm just saying right now to share with the viewers, it's very simple.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, we're going to show that second video, the PETA video about, chew on this, the vegetarian. So why don't you introduce it and then we'll show it.
Absolutely. Do you want me to talk about the PETA video?
Actually, why don't we show it and then we'll talk about it after.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, so it's called Chew on This.
Yeah.
It's by the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Whenever you're ready with it. Thanks.
Reasons
to become
a vegetarian. Number 1.
Because heart disease
Begins in childhood.
Number 2.
because a vegetarian diet,
Reverses heart disease.
Number 3.
because eating meat and dairy,
Makes you fat.
Number 4.
because you shouldn't have to lie to your kids about the food that you eat,
Number 5.
because in every package of chicken,
Every package of chicken,
there's a little poop,
Number 6.
because meat is filthy and bloody,
Number 7.
because no living creature wants to see her family slaughtered. You hear that?
Number 10.
Because mad cow disease.
Is in the U.S.
Number 11.
Because it's violence you can stop.
We can stop.
Number 12.
Because no one should have to make a living by killing.
Number 13. Because it takes a small person to beat a defenseless animal.
And an even smaller person to eat it. Number 15.
Because the grain used to feed them could feed them.
You need more?
Because they're defenseless.
Because when animals feel pain,
They scream too. Because they don't want to die.
Because they feel fear.
because no matter how you slice it, it's still flesh.
Because commerce
Is no excuse for murder. Because everyone wants to be free. Because eating fish doesn't make you a vegetarian.
Because might doesn't make right.
Hi, we're back on the set with Vivi. So, how long have you been a vegetarian?
Oh wow, almost all my life. But I have had some meat at one point. I would say at home, my parents, my mom, because it's a French, family, she would serve traditional, meat, and I would always leave the meat there and go and steal the vegetable. But I had some chicken there.
I mean,
and
so
there.
just instinctively something in you, I mean, from an early age, felt disconnected from eating meat?
Absolutely, absolutely. I always felt like animal. I adore animal. I mean, the divine is everywhere, permeate this universe. I mean, worshiping animals, worshiping the environment is worshiping God. And I think naturally I knew that. So for me, it was never something I wanted to do to eat animals. Because people, this is a matter of raising consciousness, right? Most people, even on a spiritual path, I would say, that I have noticed are not vegetarian, and I do not understand. Well, actually, I take it back. I do understand. Is that still they haven't reached that consciousness, that where we reach a level where that circle of compassion and kindness and love needs to be extended to every sentient being. And to me, it was almost natural. But I I will be sincere. Yes, indeed, I have had chicken. I had seafood at one point, but very quickly I stopped eating it at a very young age because it didn't feel natural for me. Well, there's so much cruelty with animals, and people are not aware of it. And that's what I was saying earlier. It goes back to raising people's consciousness and becoming aware. Because, Alain, I will say with all my heart, if people knew what's happening in the world, in farm factory and the slaughterhouses, they would become vegetarian and vegan very, very quickly. People have no idea what's happening, and it's atrocious cruelty. You know, most people think of farm animals, of that little farm, you know, the little picture you see in books when you grow up. It used to be that way 15 years ago, but it's not like that today. It's unfortunately the world we live in, as we are experiencing. There's tremendous violence, and we see it in those institutions, all those industries. We are human beings who are so driven by greed and selfishness motive that we're forgetting that we are hurting ourselves, and we're hurting everything. We're destroying the planet. That's basically what we're doing. People don't know we are destroying the planet. As we speak right now, we have thousands of species of animals who died every year, thousands. Rainforests are being destroyed. I'm sure some of you have heard entire field of football field every hour has been destroyed. Not only we're depleting the natural resources, but we're depleting all those animals. The wildlife are dying. But I want to go back to the farm factory and the slaughtering houses, because I like to depict a picture of what's going on there, and because the general public is not aware of that. And of course, all the industry will hide it because we're a consumer, and there's a lot of money to be made. Actually, this industry of the farm industry, it's a $120 billion industry. And if we look at what's happening right now in the farm factory, the animals are raised as they would take care better of a chair than a pig or ants. For example, the laying ants, they live in
hens.
Ants. Thank you.
They said ants. Even animal activists aren't protecting the ants yet.
Not the ants.
Oh my God,
H-E-N.
we got to protect. No, the hens.
Yeah, the hens. Thank you. It's my accent.
No, I know.
I told you I still destroyed this language.
I've listened to you a lot, but when you said hens, I told you ants.
No,
oh my God,
ants.
the ants.
So they are in battering cages, and there are about like dozens of them, and they cut their beak with a hot blade, and they don't even see the daylight. They also put them into a stage that is called molting, where they starve them for it varies between 5 to 15 days, so that way they will produce eggs even more, and they stack on top of each other in big warehouse. There are like thousands and thousands of them, and it's tremendous. And
Doesn't seem like it makes you want to eat an omelet, does it?
no, and they feed them hormones and actually, hormones, and to make them grow much faster. I mean, right now, they slaughter those poor little chicken at 2 months old. They have grown so big that their heart, their whole entire body cannot even support themselves. Some of them even die in the cage even before they get a chance to go to the slaughterhouses, but maybe it's better if they don't go anyway. And for instance, the calf, as soon as the baby calf is born, they take it away from the mother, and they put them into little tiny crates where they cannot even move, and they tie it up by the neck, and they feed them some kind of milk that is made with blood. The real milk of the cow goes to who? To the human beings. That's what we are drinking, and it's full of pesticides. It's full of antibiotic and hormone, and And I could go on, and the piglet, the way they live, is atrocious. And I was going to say, the fume when you walk into those farms is tremendous. I mean, it would blind you. It blinds some of the animals, and their lifespan is very short. And all of them grow much faster than what they're supposed to, twice and even 3 times faster. And it's very scary what's going on. And the worst part is when they go to the slaughtering houses. The trip they go there, it's horrendous cruelty. They don't have water. A lot of them die in cages. Like, for instance, the cow. There's over 195,000 they call it drowners. There are cows who actually cannot even walk. They have broken bones, and they pull them out of the trucks and kick them, and they die there. They pull them with chain because they can get up. They don't have any force, the energy to go, and the farm factory it's an invention of the era we live in, and it's not sustainable. What's happening right now, it's affecting the entire planet Earth. It's affecting our environment because 1% of the water that we use here in America is being used to raise those animals. And now this is a perfect example to see how we all interconnected, and now it's affecting the entire planet because with the farm factory and the meat industry, the slaughtering houses. Because all the grain that is being given to those animals to grow, and there's over 10 billions of animals that are being grown here alone, land animal here in this country to go to the slaughterhouse to feed people. And over 15 billion fish, that is been fed to people. And it's incredible how all this meat is the animal, how they are cruelly abused in the slaughtering houses. They dismember consciously, and there is a lot of study on that. And I would say, don't take my word for it, because I would say I'm sharing some information with you. There's a lot of research that could be done on the internet, and I'll mention a few of those websites that you could read. But I want to go back to the environment because it's important how we're depleting the resources. I was going to say also that how it's affecting the pollution, because all those pesticides, the antibiotic, and all of those natural products they use, it goes into the water, into the topsoil, all over. It goes into our forests, it goes into everywhere, and it's really affecting. And like I was saying, world hunger, I mean, look at Ethiopia and Somalia in the 90s and the 80s. They were shipping grains to America and Europe to feed the first world in order to satisfy our desire for meat, while those people were starving. And if we could change that, I mean, think of all those billions of animals I just mentioned, we would actually cut down on a lot of the cruelty. I have seen the undercover video of a lot of the slaughtering houses, and it touches you very deeply. You know, you don't have to be spiritual to see how insane it is. And there is actually a law out. It's called the Humane Slaughtering Act, but apparently it's not reinforced, and there is a lot of violation, tremendous amount of violation. And so those are the area where I could see how we are interconnected, and we don't see it, that how this industry, among all several industry, how we're not paying attention, how we're destroying the planet. Right now, as it is, 90% of the ocean is in a state of collapse. This is serious. I mean, most people are not aware of that. And global warming is now, it's not a warning anymore, it's happening right now as it is. And it's all interconnected. For instance, all the oil we use, over, I believe, I'm not sure about it, but I think over 50% of the oil that comes is being used for the the consumption of creating this food industry. And in reality, if we're all going to become vegan or vegetarian, just out of compassion to start with. Oh, most important, I wanted to say, because there's so much to talk about this subject, and I'm bombarded with thoughts right now here, is also for our own health. I mean, according to the American Dietetic Association and American Medical Association, they have said, both of those associations, that vegetarian and veganism are a lot more healthier. They have lower blood pressure, lower cancer, lower prostate cancer, lower, I mean, I could name it. I mean, again, I could give you a lot of statistics, and I'll give you some website you could look, but it's true, vegetarian are healthier. But I want to go back to the aspect, the spiritual aspect, because I think that's what it goes back to. It's really realizing that compassion, if we're going to grow spiritually, Alan, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, compassion is, and love, is to be extended to all sentient beings. We need to bring back those human values. I believe the world has lost those values. Well, not entirely, but it's lacking. We need to revive that reverence, that worshipping, that compassion, and that love, and that respect. Because the divine is in every particle of this universe. And the animals are the greatest teacher. They are the spiritual teacher. They teach us to open up our heart. They teach us to love. Because love, it's not only, and I feel like, how can we love and extend compassion to our neighbors and stop the wars if we cannot even do it with animals? And if we cannot see the divine in the animals, in a flower, in a beautiful, even a pig, because they're highly intelligent. That's the other thing that people don't realize. Animals, we are animal, by the way. The animal, I would say, humans, they're all very highly intelligent. People don't realize that. They have feelings, they have personality. And my most powerful spiritual experience I have had has been with animals, of oneness. When you look at them in their eye, only one experience, and they touch your soul, I have lost myself in them. I became one, and I felt my heart opening up, and that blossom coming, that blossoming, but that bliss, that joy, and it's very powerful. And when you hear the cry of the animal and you feel it, it touches your soul very deeply. How can you sit down and eat them? This is what we talk about, raising consciousness. This is the next level of spirituality. If we talk about oneness, how can we not see it in the animal? They're divine. How can we go and eat them? They have their own rights. They are as equal as we are. We are the one that we are an inferior species when we're committed act of cruelty upon them. And I believe is that most people don't realize that, because if they knew what's happening, it's not only, I have to say, the animal cruelty is not only in farm factory and slaughtering houses, it's everywhere. Look at cats and dogs. There's an amazing overpopulation of cats and dogs. So many also are being, I've received some cruelty from youngsters on the street. And if you look at farms of forest, the way they raise them, they electrocute them annually, they suffocate them, they poison them. It's not only the way they're being killed, but it's the way they're raised. The same thing, leather, the byproduct of animal, leather, it's causing serious damage to the environment as well. And those cows, again, are cruelly slaughtered and tortured. And if you look at can hunting, exotic pets, have you heard about can hunting? Where they...
it's one of those words, I'm not sure what you're saying. So
Can hunting, it's a new thing right now, is that...
It sounds like you hunt cans, but it
well,
can't
that
be
sounds
what
like
you
that
mean.
because they're in a very small area where they use exotic animals they have imported, and they don't give them a chance. You just shoot them. And now there's a new thing also about computer, where you could do it on the internet.
And somebody else shoots them for you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Just
what
do
a
it.
beautiful thing.
It's amazing. And then the other thing is also animal experimentation. I mean, the experiment on cats and dogs. Well, I want to go back also. If we were not going to eat our cat, would you eat your cat or your dog?
Well, I buried my cat about 3 years ago, so that would be quite a meal. But I probably wouldn't. But I guess it depends how hungry I was.
Well, when you see,
with all due respect, but
well, there's plenty,
probably not.
But there's plenty of beautiful abundance here in this planet.
No, I probably wouldn't. But you never could tell. All things being equal.
Well, maybe that's another area we need to look into growing spiritually.
Well, there's probably a lot of areas we could look into,
But I could go on and on talking about animal cruelty because there's so much, it's so rampant in the world. I mean, in the laboratory.
Well, I mean, that there's cruelty, human to human, human to fish, human to, family. I mean, we feel separate, so once we feel separate, all hell breaks loose.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's like, the real question is how do we reconnect, which, you were talking about earlier.
But we could reconnect with animals. Again, it's just, of course, we need to reconnect with our soul. But at the moment we let the heart open up a little bit, we have this reverence and we see God in the animal.
We're just so separated out. I mean, people can have cats and dogs and love their cats and dogs and then, eat a salmon or eat a chicken.
But that's what I was saying, that's the next level of compassion, to expand that awareness, that love to all sentient beings. But
I mean, you would treat a tree with respect and not that you would never cut one down, maybe. I mean, probably we would use wood. I mean, it would just be different. I mean, I don't know if we'd never cut a tree down. I mean, you wouldn't say we would never cut a tree down, right?
Well, it's better not, unless we have to. But
well, I mean, but there, probably there's some wood in your house, right? I mean, just, it's the nature of like where we are at this point, So, I mean, I think we would do it a lot differently. I mean, we would have reverence and respect. So if we cut something down or ate it, we would respect what they're doing for us.
But that's what I'm trying to bring up. This is the new level of consciousness that we are seeing. It's happening right now.
Absolutely.
That to embrace everything as divine, because God permeates every particle of this universe. And I want to go back to the oneness. I mean, if we are one, because we need to remember we talk about oneness.
Let's go back to the oneness.
Okay, if it's indeed we are one, when you look at an animal, you're looking at yourself. How can you eat yourself?
I don't even want to go there.
So you see, this is very deep. And it's just a matter to start being conscious and aware of that. And when you start looking around and look at those beautiful animals and having that connection, it's very powerful. And that's why I say animals are spiritual teachers. Because
I agree.
They teach us compassion. They teach us reverence. They teach us how to worship this beautiful planet. And I would say this is the only planet we have, right? So let's take care of it. Those animals belong to us, and we need to create that sense of belongingness and having the sense of responsibility. It is our responsibility to take action with compassion, non-violence, ahimsa. Jesus Christ was the perfect example. The Buddha talked about compassion, ahimsa, which comes from the yoga tradition, which is very ancient from the Vedic that dates like 5,000 BC. It's a very rich tradition. It's very beautiful. It's non-violence. We need to stop the violence. It is time that we awaken to the truth and the beauty. This is the call to everyone.
We're coming down to the end of the show. So, I mean, I think that's it, It's time for us to awaken to the beauty, the love, the consciousness, the oneness, to have that experience. And, You know, I mean, that's what we're all here to do. That's what the show's about. That's why Vivi does everything she does. So good night. God bless you. We love you. Thank you. Good night.